Hi everyone, it's the Honest Recruiter, and I'm here with Adam Staunton, who is a comedian. I saw him, when did I see him? About a month ago now, in Sheffield, and he killed it. So I reached out to him, had a bit of a chat, had a bit of conversation with him, and we've got him on today. So Adam, how are you, mate? You all right?
I'm great. Really important question before we even start. Are you allowed to swear on this?
Of course you are.
Okay,
You say what
I'm
you
not
want.
going to be swearing all the time. It's just I need to know if I can or not before we actually start talking.
Of course you can. Of course you can. I
Alright,
swear,
cool.
not all the time, but I swear a little bit. So yeah, do what you want.
So
Absolutely.
this is for LinkedIn.
So, right, okay. So it will go on LinkedIn. It'll go on other socials as well. It'll go everywhere.
All right. I don't understand LinkedIn. I've never used it. I don't really, because when I used to have a proper job, I made one then. But then I used to do extras work, so I treated it like it was like my page on like an extras website. So I just put like loads of headshots as if, employers are going to be asked about what I look like. And then just gave like a little bio about like my hobbies and stuff, but instead of actually talking about what I'm good at in work terms. So, but I don't understand what LinkedIn is for. Is it like Facebook, but for business stuff?
Sort of. It's
Right.
like a mixture of, what is it a mixture of? It's like a mixture of Facebook and your CV, I guess. So it's weird. It originally started as pure business, what like people used to reach out to each other to do business, but you know what it's like, social media. So over time, it's more, it's become more and more Facebook. But
Yeah.
I mean,
Because don't get this.
yeah,
Don't take this the wrong way. I'm not saying this in like an offensive way. I don't get why having me on this is going to help you.
no, it's not about that. I mean, I'm okay. So like I say, it's going on LinkedIn, but it's also going on other socials, so it'll go everywhere. Obviously we're on Spotify as well, so it'll go sort of everywhere. We've got people coming on, or people that have been on that we've just not released yet, that have got hundreds of thousands of followers, and they're from different backgrounds. So what we're trying to do is interview people from businesses as well, who might be owning businesses, running businesses, but also from completely different careers or completely different art forms. So we're trying to speak to people and really understand what different avenues there are out there for people. For
Nice.
example, one of the guys I've got on is he's a gaming streamer, so he's completely
Cool.
nothing to do with business, but he's someone that I've watched for a long time. I play on Warzone and stuff like that, so he's
Nice.
someone I've watched for a long time. And I just think it makes sense to interview and speak to people from every different background, really.
Did he ask you for a tip? Or was
He
on
always
it?
asks for tips. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. He's a good lad. He's a good guy. But yeah, I just think it's important to speak to people from completely different industries and, like I say, different art forms, and understand people and how you've got there and what's out there, and yeah. So
It's mad to
why I asked.
when I grew up playing video games, and I remember like playing like SNES and 64, and the idea that you can make money from just playing computer games would have blown my mind when I was about 12. I would have been made up to hear that that was the future.
Yeah, I don't think I'd have ever come out of my bedroom if I
Yeah.
knew that. They make a fortune. It's crazy how much money you can make. They can make a fortune. Like the top Warzone players, like just streaming. I'm not talking about competitive, but just streaming. They make literally millions.
Yeah, I mean, do you watch Awesome Games Done Quick?
No.
Oh, watch it, man.
No.
It's on YouTube. It's just people trying to complete computer games in like record times, and they're doing it for charity. So, and they go to these big, massive convention halls in hotels and stuff in America, like enormous spaces, and you can see on the live stream like just how many chairs are set out for people, and they just play all the old classic games like as quick as they can. If you're into games still, like check that out. I mean, I'm sure you're busy, you've got actual like responsibilities and stuff, but if you've still got, sure you got like a mortgage and stuff, but if you've got time, check that out. It's really good.
Yeah, I will do, man. I will do. I am into that sort of stuff, and like I say, it's mad to think how much money can be made from something that 10 years ago you would not have made a penny on. And
10 years ago, your parents would have been ashamed of you for spending too much time doing it. They would have said, get out there and get a real job and earn some money. But now it's like, it's kind of the opposite. It's like, stay in, get a good internet connection and make some money.
There's like 10-year-olds making millions. It's crazy.
Oh, mate. You know, when you see like 10-year-olds unboxing stuff on YouTube and they've got like millions of subscribers, and you're thinking, I have to go to like a cafe now for 8 hours and serve coffee to people, which is my other job. That's my other job, and I just think, oh God, I was born in the wrong generation. Because my generation, I don't know how old you are. How old are you?
33.
All right, so we're pretty much the same age. We were the first generation. We were the last generation that grew up without a phone. How mad is that?
Yeah, I had one. It wasn't a proper. I mean, I had like a 3310, like a brick.
Yeah,
when I was like, how old? Like 13, 14, I think.
Yeah.
13, something like that.
Mine was.
So yeah, it's crazy.
I paid 50 quid for mine just because I fancied the girl who was selling it. And I had no mates, so there was no reason for me to have one because I had no one to ring anyway. And it didn't even have the internet or anything like that. And now it's just, you've got the entire world on your phone in your pocket, like all that information. It's terrifying. Like, I was thinking about this, and my parents' generation, they've seen so much more change technologically than what we have, because they saw the invention of like the television, but then like also the internet, and like they put a man on the moon and stuff like that. And it's terrifying how quickly technology is moving. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And it was like the internet was like, they still weren't sure if it was going to take off.
Yeah,
like,
they thought it was going to be a fad. Yeah. They were like, no, it's not as good as the telephone. Now people actively avoid talking to people on the telephone.
Yeah, I do.
I do. If someone rings me on the phone, I put it under my pillow sometimes, because I don't want to answer it, but I can't stand the ringing. It just makes me feel so guilty, but I don't know how to put it on silent, because I'm terrible with technology.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I'm really sorry if people listening to this, if my mic is terrible. I've got like a really old laptop, so I don't know if my voice is going to sound awful on this or not.
No, it's coming through fine. No, it sounds good.
Is it okay? I'm really paranoid about that, because if there's one thing that you don't want to listen to for like half an hour, it's one person's audio being terrible and the other person's being normal. You know, because it sounds like I'm recording from a submarine or something.
No, it's good, man. It's good.
Okay.
Why don't you?
You've got a gold mic.
I have. Yeah. It's on brand.
Are you in?
You would think so. It's gold plated, mate. It's from Argos, I think.
Wow, mate, it was going so well until you said Argos. It's gold plated from Argos. Just say the first bit.
I just painted it. That's all. Why don't we talk through then? Go on then. Go through your career. What have you done so far? What got you into comedy? How did it all start?
What got me into comedy was not wanting to have a job. Which didn't work out because I've got a part-time job now. But that's just to make money, because I want like holidays and stuff. But how I got into it, I did a course in uni, which doesn't sound like it's possible. But it was only like a 3 week course. So it's like a mini course that they offered to the students who were in uni if they wanted to do something like extracurricular. And I went along to the first couple of like meetings. Because it's weird, because when you do a comedy course, you have to do your stuff in front of the other people who are doing the course. You don't have like an audience. Yeah. And it's kind of weird because you're doing the same bits over and over because you're trying to hone them and get them better. But then the amount that they laugh at it like goes down because they've heard it more. Yeah. So by like the last like rehearsal, if you want to call it that, everyone's just dying on their arse because they're just doing the stuff to silence. But it's not the case. It's just because we've heard it so many times. So that was weird to get my head around. And then I did the first gig, and everyone's friends and family were like invited, because they made a point of, invite people that you know. So everyone turned up, and the gig went so well. And I was like, this is great. This is like the easiest thing in the world. I'm going to be boss at this. And then I was shit for about 6 months after that, because I was gigging in front of actual people, you know what I mean, in front of normal people, not friends and relatives anymore. So in complete contrast to that first one, the next 6 months were terrible, but I remembered how good the first one went, and I just thought, if I can get that kind of reaction again in front of people who don't know me, I'll know that I'm cut out for this. And slowly but surely I got better and better until I kind of hit like a peak where, I mean, there's loads of wanky ways of saying this. Most people say, they found their voice. I don't really know what that means. I think it just means you stop being shit. But I was quite like stopped being shit fairly early on, which is very lucky for my, you know, mental health. And from that point, it's like something just clicked, and I've just been I've been pretty good at it ever since, which is all I've ever really wanted, to be honest. Like, you're going to ask me about like business stuff, the business side of it. And the thing about a lot of comedians is that a lot of them have got undiagnosed ADHD, and a lot of them have got like undiagnosed mental health problems as well. And I think I've definitely got like a little bit of ADHD. I don't know if you can just like self-diagnose yourself with a little bit of ADHD. I don't know if that's like a medical term, but yeah, why not? I want a label. You know, I want a label that I can blame shit on. Why, Adam, why are you so bad at admin? Because I've got ADHD. Leave me alone. I suffer, you know?
There you go.
So, and I am terrible at like the admin side of stuff. So when it comes to like building myself as a business, I'm not very good at that at all. It took me about 2 years of doing comedy before I actually started to write down my gigs on like a Google Docs thing so that I could pay my taxes properly. So, because you have to put in like how, you know, how much you earn and what your expenses are. I didn't realise that you could claim back for stuff expenses wise if you were self-employed. I had no idea. So I spent like 2 or 3 years just like going to hotels and getting taxis and just not getting receipts. And when I think back to it, I mean, literally like about thousands of pounds I must have wasted on just not knowing that you can claim stuff back, because no one tells you that. No one.
It's crazy.
In school, right? It's one of the things that wind me up about when I look back at my education is the fact that they don't really give you an adequate, like the ability to fend for yourself in the real world. They just teach you how to pass tests. Which pisses me off, because like in once I've left school and left university, left education, I'm not going to need to know so much of the stuff that you've been drilling into me so that I could pass a test so that Ofsted give you an outstanding rating. You know, I'm going to need to know stuff like how to become self-employed if I so choose, how to fill out the tax return, stuff which is going to be easy to do. And instead, suddenly you become an adult and it's like, oh, by the way, here's all these responsibilities. Good luck paying your rent each month. It's just like, fuck, could I have a little bit more help?
I've said this so much. Yeah, education's bizarre because, like you say, it's like a driving test. They teach you how to pass the test, but then when you pass your test, you learn how to drive properly, don't you? And you, or not, but you know what I mean? It's yeah. But it's like, it would take, how long would it take? 1 term, maybe half a term to actually just do a little bit of tax or a little bit of adult responsibilities or something like that. Definitely. Have a little lesson
like
in
politics as well. I mean, they wonder why a lot of younger generations just aren't asked about politics. It's just because they never actually like taught to engage with it from a young age. It's just seen as like a boring adult thing. You know, and this is why politicians end up acting like celebrities to try and get those young votes, because they think that is what they need to do, instead of having stuff like, you know, policies and moral integrity.
Well, speaking of moral integrity, Jesus Christ. The thing is with politics as well, it's getting more and more that way. Like you say, it's more and more just, you know, a likability competition.
Sound bites.
You know, who can say the most controversial shit and get
who
out
can say the right thing. Oh, I will tell you whatever you want to hear just so that you'll put me in power. I don't know who said it. There's a really great quote by some philosopher who said that those who seek power should very rarely have it. And I think that's so true in politics. Wow. I think when people are like desperate to be like prime minister or something, it's like, I think you're a psychopath and you shouldn't be allowed anywhere near policies which could damage people's lives. Are you political at all? I am interested in politics, very interested. My problem is I'm very central, and that doesn't sound like a problem, but it really is a problem because I piss everyone off. Yeah.
So I tend to think, like, people talk to me about, I don't know, people will say something about Boris, and I'm like, yeah, he's a dick. But it's often those people that are bashing Boris that will be defending the left, and I'm like, well, I'm not particularly keen on the left.
Yeah.
Like, the left has gone too left for me, and then there's no integrity.
That's why it's called too left.
So yeah, exactly.
You could be too left or you could be too right. I like the centralists are people who I think know how to have an actual debate, because they don't pick a side. They listen to both facts and then come to some kind of logical conclusion. Whereas I think people on the extreme left or the extreme right, they're so reactionary. I think a lot of them just want to have a reaction, and it can be for political clout, or it can be for like social media points, you know, just for likes on Facebook. And I think that's, I don't know, there's something we've lost that art, I think, of being able to actually have a debate.
Yeah, it's tribal as well.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people just subscribe to one side or the other because, you know, they live in a certain area, or their mates do it, or their dad did it. Or,
especially politics. Yeah, definitely. People vote because their parents voted for that party. You know, it's like they support Liverpool because their dad supports Liverpool. It's like ingrained in people, I think, and it's going to take like a couple of generations to get rid of that. But I don't know. I don't know what the solution to any of that is. And that's the thing. I wish that more politicians would admit to not being able to do stuff and actually like give jobs and roles to people who can, instead of just giving it to like their, you know, extended family and stuff like that.
Can you imagine how amazing it would be if they got jobs on merit? Jesus.
Yeah, that would be amazing, wouldn't it? That's just not the way the world is. Comedy's a bit like that, though, to be honest. Some of the best acts I know aren't on telly, and like probably won't ever be famous, which is a shame, because as much as you've got to be funny and as much as you've got to be creative and entertaining and stuff like that, a good, I'd say like 60% of it is just fucking luck. You know what I mean? You can't tell sometimes when you're going to get picked up or when you're going to get like plucked from obscurity. Like, there are people on the circuit who do so much, they create so much content, and they're so consistently good at every gig, but they just can't seem to crack that weird glass ceiling that I think exists.
What's that route in comedy? Is it Edinburgh? Do you have to sort of do Edinburgh?
It was back in the day. I don't think it is anymore. Nowhere near as much. There's like every year there's a kick-off amongst comedians about Edinburgh because of how expensive it is to do. Rent prices for accommodation is just extortionate. I think they're bringing in a rule actually to say that that landlords in Edinburgh won't be allowed to kick out their tenants during August and then charge like triple their rent. Like, they've had to bring in a fucking law to do that. Crazy. And so, as like I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, something like that, it was probably like the way to do it. You have a show, an hour-long show. You go to Edinburgh, do that show every single day, and then off the back of that, you then might get into TV warm-up work, and then from TV warm-up work, you then get into panel shows, and then panel shows live at the Apollo, and then boom, you're famous. But now, it's so much more self-produced. Like, especially in the North, there's so many great comedy podcast in the North. I've got a mate called Adam Rowe, and he does a podcast called Have a Word with Dan Nightingale, which is amazing. It's really good. And Adam's been on Live at the Apollo, right? But he is more famous for that podcast than he is for being on Live at the Apollo. And that's purely because he's reached so many people. They've got thousands and thousands of Patreons, and they organise these events and they sell out every single time. And that's nobody from the BBC or the telly helping them out. That's just them doing that with their own little team. And I kind of think that that's the way. It's been going like that for a long time. Like, you've had a Twitch streamer on this show, which is indicative of where that kind of thing's going. The idea of being a businessman. It's changed from, you know, putting on a suit and tie and going to meetings and stuff like that. It's just more about getting on the internet and reaching as many people as possible. That's how comedians are getting famous now, which is great. Yeah.
It's similar with, on a slightly different level. I know Adam Rowe's funny as well. But Joe Rogan, he's been doing comedy for how long? A long time. And obviously he got into TV and did that, but his podcast is really what's made him most
definitely
famous, I would say.
Clips as well, because I think because no one's got an attention span anymore. You just see those little clips of stuff on Instagram, and it's so easy to. That's why everyone's got a podcast, because it's so easy to clip a bit out of it, which is interesting or funny or whatever. Stick that on TikTok. Before you know it, you've got, you know, 1 million hits, hundreds of thousands of new followers, and then you can start selling whatever you want to them, you know, if you want to, you know, and then that's when you start getting sponsorship deals and stuff like that. How many listeners does this get? Do you know?
We'll see, won't we?
It depends on how interested you are, Adam.
It depends on how interested you are.
No, that's what I mean. I'm the guest.
Yeah, 100%. So you mentioned comedy and like the future of comedy. You see it like being mainly online, I guess, mainly sound bites and
everything is.
No way to push
everything's
people.
online, isn't it?
So obviously, stand-up's still a massive thing. For me anyway, I go to a fair bit of stand-up, and for me it's still a massive thing. Do you think that's dying a little bit, or do you?
No,
think
I think the end of lockdown is really, because a lot of people on the circuit were worried after lockdown ended that it wasn't going to get, audiences just weren't going to come out again, and I didn't see that. I mean, it's gotten a little bit worse recently, but I think that's more to do with the cost of living crisis, which is just stopping people from actually being able to go out at all, you know. And you could see that in how many cancelled subscriptions Netflix has. People are really having to clamp down on their entertainment, which is a shame, because I think if you deserve anything in life, it's a bit of a distraction from how shit it is, and going to live comedy is a nice way of doing that. So, I mean, I've had gigs pulled in the last couple of months just because they've had like low ticket sales and stuff like that. But then conversely, I've been to gigs which have been packed out, and I think it's just to do with so many different factors. It could be to do with what else is on. Oh, I lost you. You all right? You still there?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Something just like
I got you.
Something just paused on my end, so I just thought something had gone wrong. So yeah, it could be to do with anything. Is there something else going on at the same time? You know, is there football on? Are there other events on? Is the weather too nice? Sometimes I think the weather can just be too nice, because even if you've got tickets to a comedy night, if it's so nice and you're just like, I don't really want to sit in a dark room and listen to some blokes talk about their dick for 20 minutes each time. I'd rather just stay in a beer garden. Comedy works better when it's cold. It's weird.
Yeah, no, I get that. Do you see the Will Smith apology? Have you seen that?
Will Smith, I want to be in the news again.
His apology.
I'm one of them when I thought that was. I thought that was just a huge setup from the word go. To be honest, it just looked a bit too staged.
Yeah, I did.
You know what I mean? And I was sometimes when stuff like that happens, I Google their name and see if they're like going on tour or if they've got a book coming out or something like that. I think Chris Rock has a big tour coming up after that happened. It's just a nice way of getting some publicity. I just think it's a bit too. How could somebody march up to somebody who's hosting the Oscars and not immediately be tackled by security?
Not just that though. He did it. He marched up to him, slapped him, and then went back to his seat, carried on, and then still got his award.
Yeah.
Half an hour later.
That's weird, isn't it?
I was watching it. This is the most surreal thing I've ever seen.
Was Chris still on stage when Will Smith got his award?
No, he wasn't on stage when he got his award, but he was on stage for a good 10 minutes after. And it's just like, and you could just see Chris Rock just kept looking back down. And it was like,
that's so weird. I mean, nobody watches the Oscars. I mean, nobody really watches them anymore. And I think that's them being like, what can we do? You know, similar to when, remember when Madonna and Britney Spears kissed for no reason whatsoever? Yeah. And everyone, I don't get why people don't get that that's a publicity stunt. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, are they seeing each other? Are they dating? Like, no.
They're in the entertainment business.
They want some fucking attention. What do you think they're doing? Yeah, I don't know. I've never believed that. When I first saw the video as well, I used to watch wrestling, and they do this thing where when they slap someone, they stamp their foot at the same time to get the noise, and it kind of looks like he did that as well. It's like, whoa, good shades of Steve Austin.
Did Chris Rock clap his hands together?
Yeah, it took the ref out. Did you?
No,
did you believe it? Did you buy it?
The apology. I sort of didn't know what to... Like, my first thought was, that can't be real, because it just didn't look real. Like Will Smith's quite a big guy, and Chris Rock's pretty small. And when I first saw it, I thought he'd have probably gone down or, like, stumbled back a lot further. He seemed to be able to just stand still. And it's like, well, he's a lot bigger than him, Will Smith. He's a big bloke. So at first I thought, that's dodgy. And then the fact that he got his award, I was like, that's even more dodgy, because you wouldn't... There's no way that should ever happen.
It's like they're rewarding him for slapping the host. Yeah.
Bizarre, man. Really weird. Hollywood is like that, though. It doesn't make any sense. But the apology is hilarious. It's not really an apology. To be
What
fair.
does he say?
I think Chris Rock's. He talks for a good while about. He's like apologising to his family, which I don't know why he needs to do that in public. I'm pretty sure he should have done that in person. But he's apologising to his family, apologising to his fans. And then he's sort of saying, he's been doing a lot of soul searching and all this stuff. But he doesn't really apologise to Chris Rock. But it's messaged as an apology to Chris Rock. And then I think Chris Rock's responded basically saying, go away.
All right. Wow. There's still beef.
Yeah, I'm not interested. Yeah, I think, apparently Chris Rock said to him at the beginning, sort of the day after Will Smith tried to apologise or something, and apparently Chris Rock said, I'll come to you when I want to speak. But, like, it's just, how long can you drag out the beef to keep getting sales?
Oh, pair of pussies. Just fucking have a fight at the car park and get over it.
Put them in a ring. Yeah, put them in a ring. Everyone wants to see that. Just put them in a ring.
Oh, wow. I hate like... So... like Hollywood celebrities who like to become philosophers every time they're interviewed. I hate all like they're worse than politicians, because at least like with politicians you can tell that they're trying to like confuse you with like big long words and complicated language. But when these celebrities come out with it, it's because they actually think they're like spiritual and eloquent and interesting, and it's just like, nah, you've just been disconnected from reality for so long that you don't know how to talk anymore.
Yeah. Must be such a weird thing, especially if you're young and you get into that circle, and your whole life is just about what you do on screen. Like, you're not like, no one teaches you how to.
And you have to like explain everything that you're thinking. You explain your thought process but out loud. Like, I don't care how you're getting from A to B. Just give me the answer to the question that I've asked. Have you ever seen a show called This Is Us?
No,
it's American.
No,
right? Me and my ex started watching it in lockdown, and it was really like well shot and stuff like that. Like a lot of stuff on Netflix is. House on Haunted Hill is another one that's like was shot really well, but the dialogue, man, it sounds so unnatural, because basically it's just the characters just give monologues to each other all the time about their emotions and how they're feeling and stuff like that. It's like it was written by it's like the writers were all therapists, and they forgot that they, apart from their clients, when they don't see them, people don't talk like that anymore. And it's all about like relationships and about like, relationships between partners and relationships between parents and stuff like that. And after like about 3 seasons, they started running out of like storylines. So then they were like, oh, we'll give them kids, and we'll make the kids start doing all these like monologues. So you've got like a kid who's meant to be 9 years old, and she's having this big like soliloquy about how like people's in school, their actions have effects like ripples in a pond and stuff, and I'm just watching it. What the fuck is going on? Why don't people talk properly in shows like this anymore?
It's bizarre, man. It's bizarre. Speaking of speaking properly, like there's before I came to see you, there was loads of drama around, and I think there still is, around comedy, around So Roy Chubby Brown got cancelled, and I don't know all the background. I didn't really, to be honest, do that much looking into it, but I can guess why. But it's something doesn't sit right with me about him being cancelled for a comedy. Yeah. I mean, he's a comedian, and I don't know if he said anything in particular that is ridiculous. I've not seen anything, but like what is going on with all that? Like,
I think people like Roy Chubby Brown have just become a bit of a target for people who want to cancel someone. Yeah. And kind of act like, oh, we've had a victory over like hate speech or whatever they want to describe it as. He's just unfortunately one of those targets. I say unfortunately for like his fans and stuff, because I mean he's got fans, definitely. And I've watched the Roy Chubby Brown DVD years ago.
I watched a video.
Yeah, that's how long ago it was. You put it in a VCR and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, mate, I just pressed play on YouTube. I've not bought the DVD for 20 years. And don't get me wrong, there were bits which made me go like, ooh, fucking hell. But then there were other bits where I was laughing. And I was like, well, I don't know. Is it? Am I now a bad person for laughing at his jokes and finding it funny? Where does that end? Do you know what I mean? Because you take his set, you take half of the stuff he says that people say is controversial, and you give it to Jimmy Carr, and you let Jimmy Carr do it, and so many more people will forgive him. First of all, it's a class thing. He's middle class and he's a little bit posh. So therefore, he must be doing it ironically because he's too intelligent to be actually to like mean this shit. Do you know what I mean? Whereas with Roy Chubby Brown, working class fella, I think a lot of people are like, oh, look at this typical thicko insulting foreigners with no appreciation for their culture. And it's like, well, I don't know if comedy is really the place to have appreciation for anything. Everything is there to be picked apart and, you know, laughed at and, I don't know what the word is, dissected, you know what I mean? It's not, we're not on stage to like fucking talk about how great everything is. We're on stage to talk about how shit everything is.
Yeah, and often you're a persona, aren't you? You're saying something. I mean, Ricky Gervais explains it better than me. I watched Ricky Gervais on a podcast talking about it, and he was saying, that there's nothing that can't be joked about. Like he said, it depends on the joke. Like it's not. There's literally no subject in the world that can't be joked about. It all depends on the joke, and he sticks with that. And I get him. Like you're a persona, you're a comedian. It's not necessarily what you think, and you don't go home and start thinking these things. It's just a joke. I mean, it is just a joke, and I think it's going to be the same. I mean, I don't know Roy Chubby Brown, obviously, and it's not so much about him. It's more about the culture, but. Like, I'm sure he doesn't go home and think these things. No. It's just a joke. And he does.
I saw a documentary. I didn't see all of it, but I saw this really interesting bit where he showed some of his writing process. And he's got like all these whiteboards and stuff hung up in his garage, and it's got all of the material on it, stuff like that. And I was watching it thinking, you know what? You do actually work hard. You are a hard-working comedian. You don't just write like 10 racist jokes and then pad them out and like, right, that'll do. It's like, no, you actually do write stuff which is observational and interesting and stuff like that. And sometimes you want different types of humour. Like sometimes I'm at a gig, especially like an open mic gig, and there's people going up. And they're trying their best, and they might be new comedians and stuff, but I've seen so many of their kinds of sets before. They always open with like a lucky like joke. They always talk about their crazy mate Dave who took drugs and did a mad thing once, and then he described that mad thing. And once you start to recognise those patterns, it gets a little bit dull. And sometimes I'm watching it thinking, I just want to see like some fat working class shite just come on and just slag off his missus for like 20 minutes. Like, sometimes I just want to watch that, you know? Sometimes I don't want to watch people trying to reinvent the genre. Sometimes I just want to see some just fat, drained, exhausted, pissed off fella. Like, one of my favourite comedians in the world is Eddie Pepitone. Have you ever heard of him? Oh, no, mate, I saw him in Edinburgh, right, with Ramesh Ranganathan, because we were both doing this show. And I'd never heard of him before, but he had this massive buzz at the Fringe that year. And he did this show called Bloodbath, and me and Ramesh went to see it. And I have never come as close to actually dying in my entire life because I could not breathe. He's just this fat, bald, angry New Yorker who just screams his head off about how shit life is and how he's got all these wonderful, like, surreal metaphors and stuff. And it's just, sometimes you just want that. You don't want people coming on trying to be intelligent. Sometimes you do. And sometimes, I'm in the mood for that. But that's the thing. People have, not only do people have different tastes, but I think those tastes themselves actually do change sometimes. Sometimes you want to see, sometimes you want to just hear jokes, sometimes you want to hear stuff you can relate to, sometimes you want to just see something daft, sometimes you want to hear a bit of musical comedy. That's what's great about comedy. You can get up and do whatever you want, and that's why I don't think it should be edited. It's such a lovely art form, and it's one of the few that you can do as a poor person. You know, there's no gateway there. You know, you don't have to spend money on on piano lessons and stuff like that. If you want to, do something creative that way, you can just get up on stage and do whatever you want. And I love that freedom, and I hate the idea that it might be taken away because people just want to get some fucking retweets.
You said before about you saw that thing with Roy Chubby Brown's process, and he's got whiteboards in his garage and shit like that. A lot of people think that comedians are just funny people. Like, you go to school, you're funny, you're just a funny person, then you go out on stage, and you just say stuff and it's funny. But there's a lot. I mean, there is a lot of hard work that goes into comedy because.
I mean, the hard work is really in the admin side of it, because, like I say, so many comics are creative, but they've got no ability to control their own lives. So the hardest bit sometimes is just keeping yourself motivated to actually like do the dishes, because because you have to do like real adult person shit. You can't just like get up mid-afternoon, eat shite, have a drink, go to your gig, have it go well, get drunk and go home again. You have to like continue to function as a real person, and that's partly why I've got a part-time job. It's partly because I want more money, but it's also because I feel like it gives me some structure in my life. And because comedy, it does kind of lack structure, because you can be gigging like every day of the week, 1 week, and then not at all for like the next 2 or 3 weeks. So it's because it's so haphazard, it encourages you to be like that in other aspects of your life. So I think it's so hard sometimes to just remember to, no, you know what, I'm gonna change my bed sheets because it's been a couple of weeks. Just shit like that. That's the hardest bit sometimes. Yeah, it's been a year. They're starting to stink. I need to be an adult. I need to take those bins out. They've been full for ages. It's stuff like that. And traveling, that's a bit of a pain as well. You know, closures on the road, trains getting delayed, price of fuel going up. Someone was talking yesterday in one of the forums, actually, it was dead interesting, about how it might get to a point where comedians just stick to their area of the country because it's too expensive to go anywhere else. Like, so many acts just can't afford to gig in London regularly. And similarly, London acts can't afford to get out of London and gig in other places, which is a shame. And ultimately, it's kind of the audiences who lose out on that, because it means that they won't get those perspectives from people outside of their little bubble.
Yeah. It is, but that's bizarre, because comedy does work like that, where you get someone that's not from around you. I know it works both ways, because sometimes it's, they've got that local knowledge and they can really have a go at something. But it works both ways, I think. I think it's nice to have people in from outside that are,
it's just nice to hear another accent sometimes. It's just nice to oh yeah, Geordies exist. It's a nice reminder.
I know what you mean. I got done yesterday from the missus for being sexist, and I wasn't being sexist. Well, you tell me if I was being sexist. So I was.
I'm playing it safe.
She's all.
Go on.
Okay, fair enough. Women's football, women's football final. I think we were winning. We were 1-0 up.
I was gigging.
Did you watch it?
I'm not gigging. I was out with my mates. No.
Right. So we were 1-0 up, we were doing well, and I was flicking through Facebook, and all I could see was people saying, like things like, if you want a job done properly, ask a woman, and all this stuff. And then one of my mates put on there, the men have not been able to do it for blah, 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 the women showing us how it's done, or something like that. And I just said, you're not comparing the same thing. Like, it's a different thing. Like I'm proud of what the women have done. They were obviously the best team in the tournament all the way through. They were unbelievable, and obviously they're going to inspire loads of people. Really proud of what they did. But I was proud of the under-20s when they won it. But to me personally, it's not the same as if the men won it. I wouldn't be on this podcast now if the men had won the final yesterday. I'd be in a ditch somewhere, probably crying still. And it's like I didn't think I was being sexist by saying you're not comparing the same thing. And then a couple other people sort of said to me, you are being sexist. And I'm like, I don't understand. I'm being objective. I'm saying it's not the same sport. Like, you can't compare. You're not comparing the same thing. So I got in trouble with the missus last night because of it. But do you think that's sexist, or do you think that's people just looking at things out of context?
Well, I think you're allowed to see women's football and men's football as two separate things. I think that's allowed, and you can be more into one than the other if you so choose. I saw all those memes. I thought it was a shame that the women's team won, and everyone's reaction was to be like, shit, men. Shit, men, shit. Why are you still talking about men?
Yeah.
Why don't you just talk about how great the women did? Why do you have to use it as an excuse to slag off men, who's push. Yeah,
That's my entire
like,
point.
What position are you trying to take? Are you trying to? Have you actually enjoyed it, or do you just see it as an opportunity to slag off blokes? What's the what you get out of this? Just fucking enjoy the match.
Which is fair enough. Which is fair enough. At least be honest about it. If you just want to slag blokes, that's fine. But I got in.
You know what you need to do when you have thoughts like that is that you need to keep them to yourself. That's what I do. You just need to tell people what they want to hear. That's been most of my life. I've told people what they want to hear, and then slag them off with people who I actually enjoy being around behind the back. That's what you do, innit?
That seems fair.
Most green rooms, right, or car shares that I've been on with comedians, some of the shit that we say, it's horrific. It's horrendous. We joke about fucking murder. We joke about babies being kidnapped. We joke about Epstein's Island. The kind of stuff where if it was found or overheard by somebody who was offended, they could probably get us like cancelled by just telling Facebook. But you know what we do? We don't say it when they're around. Is that so hard to do? If you see someone and you think, oh, they might get offended by this, maybe just wait till they've left the room and then say it with your mates. Is that so hard to do?
That's fine, but that's offensive shit. I don't think I was
sorry, I was making a different... I wasn't trying to compare what you said to us making Epstein's Island jokes. I was trying to compare that.
What happened to that list? The Epstein Island list?
Too many famous people on it, mate. Too many influential... Fucking Clinton's probably on it. Nah, man. If that list came out, so many people would commit suicide over like the next couple of... It's just too dangerous. It's like the Panama Papers. There you go. Remember when they came out? Yeah. Remember when Alan Baldwin killed someone? Remember when... Yeah, that wasn't that long. Remember when the lady put the cat in the bin? You know, Matthew Broderick killed some people in Ireland. It's just people just forget about stuff. There's just information moves so fast. Yeah, people just get distracted immediately. Like we're going to host the Eurovision next year, I think, but that'll be a thing, and I'm sure there'll be some horrific case involving like R. Kelly or something like that, and everyone will be like, "Oh my god, this is disgusting," and then the next day, "Oh my god, can't wait for the Eurovision." It's just... Everyone forgets shit. This is like a golden era to be like a murderer, a famous like murderer, a famous nonce, famous whatever you want to be. This is a great time to do it because people will be fucking shocked and appalled, and then everyone will just forget about it. Fucking Kevin Spacey's going to be in a film soon.
They'll be shocked, appalled. They'll change the Facebook profile to have the little border.
I hate that. Remember when everyone was doing it for fucking Ukraine? It's like, nice one, mate. Yeah, you've sent your thoughts and prayers, have you? Like... Nice one. I'm sure that'll help Dimitri, who's got no house.
Thoughts and prayers. I love that.
What businesses do you interact with on this podcast?
Okay, so I interact with loads of people. A lot of them are clients of ours, but a lot of them aren't. So we're a recruitment business. So we have certain specialisms in recruitment. We're not just a generalist, but so we work in sort of certain sectors, like 4 different sectors. But yeah, through LinkedIn and through what we've been doing over there, what I've been doing, I've spoken to people from so many different backgrounds and not necessarily clients. Like I said, people sometimes just reach out and just sort of, like you were saying before about things like tax. Like I've had people in new business reach out and just be like, I've got a tax return to do. Can you help? And I'm like, well, never met you before, never spoke to you, but yeah, I'll send you a link. Like I use this YouTube video.
Well, that's so nice of you, considering that you're in recruitment and nothing to do with that.
It's bizarre what we like. I get asked to help with loads of different stuff, and I'm like, did you look at what I do? Like, can you build me? Yeah, it's bizarre, man. And I'm like, well, I can get you someone that can imitate it, but I can't do it myself. Yeah, man, it's bizarre. But yeah, no, I mean, like I said to you before, we've got people coming on from loads of different sort of industries, loads of different backgrounds, loads of different arts, streamers. I've got some social media, like, content creators. They're not, are they comedians? I'm not sure.
I bet you're not the first person to have asked that question.
They're one of those couples on social media that sort of prank each other. And
I love those couples. I love it when they split up.
Sort of yeah, man.
Probably brings me joy.
Their whole life.
And then they split up and they go radio silent.
Yeah.
Like, excuse, I'm fucking invested here. You fucking tell me why you split up, who cheated on who, and who got the baby. Fucking tease me like this. 6 months watching your happy lives together. I want to see the fucking misery as well.
Yeah. Imagine how sinister the pranks.
Oh my god, that's a great idea. Why has no one done that? A divorced couple pranking each other, but with horrible shit, like the twits and all that. Oh wow, like psychological stuff. That's a great idea.
Yeah, but I've got, like I say, it ranges. I've got some CEOs from some sort of really big multinationals that are coming on, that have been on, and some like fintech people from like crypto businesses and that sort of thing.
I know so many people who have lost money on that. It's fucking great.
Pandora's box, mate. It's weird, crypto. Yeah. It's a weird world, man. I mean, I started doing it. When did I start doing it? About 2 years ago. And like made like literally 5 times my money in about 6 months. And I was like, whoa, this is amazing. And then I'm back to what I put in at the start right now. Like you like, and the thing is, you can't really withdraw it because it goes against your tax. So you just leave it in there because you think, I'm not going to stress about the tax return and all this shit. Yeah, it's like having shares. It's the same as having shares, like stocks and shit. So you can't just withdraw it and just go, that's my money.
I thought you said it's like having shares. I was like, what? Crypto's like having shares. There's loads of shares. I can't take them out. It'll go against my tax. Fucking living room's just full of shares. I'd love to do crypto properly, but apparently you have to like watch it like a hawk. You have to be like constantly basically on it, watching to know when to like withdraw and stuff like that.
Depends who you're listening to. And it depends what you think. So right, okay. So I'm this is definitely not financial advice. But I genuinely think that crypto is the future.
Bold statement.
Like I think that we'll go away from I think we'll go away eventually from like fiat currency and we'll go towards crypto or some sort of digital currency. And it might be completely different to what cryptos we got now. It might be that every country has a digital currency that's not made yet, maybe. That would make probably more sense than crypto, to be fair. I might be on something there. But yeah, I think some form of digital currency will take over. I don't think we'll have cash in 20 years. I don't think anyone will have cash. To be honest, I never have cash anyway. I don't think I've seen cash for about 6 months. I just don't carry it. And a lot of people are like that. I was out the other day having a drink, and someone was coming around the pub from a charity, and she had a card machine, and I was
you could just buy them now. People get them for Edinburgh shows because obviously people have their cards at Edinburgh shows.
There's everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's genius. I mean, it is genius because, like, you've not got the excuse anymore. Like, I've got no change.
Mate, I hope homeless people get them. That'd be great. Imagine that. So I've got no change, and it's like, well, that's fine. I've got a card machine here. Just put in however much you feel like donating. See the excuses people come up with then.
I'll buy you coffee.
I want some shares.
Yeah.
Well, he could do with the chair as well, I suppose. I knew this homeless guy ours called Rick, and he was great. I used to just chat to him and like give him a bottle of water and stuff like that. And I was made up because I was like, I've got a homeless guy now. You know what I mean? I've got one that I get on with and speak to, so I don't have to feel guilty about not giving anything to any of the other homeless guys. But he's disappeared now, so I'm back to feeling guilty again. I'm gonna have to pick a new one. But then I'm scared to. Well, if I pick a new one and then I see Rick again, then I'm going to be like, oh, it's like seeing your old barber. When you go to a new barber and see your old one, you've got a haircut. You're like, oh no, I feel like I've betrayed you somehow.
That's an interesting way of looking at it, man. So, we've been doing this for about, how long have we been on? About an hour? Something like that. So, do you want to go through what you're doing then? What's coming up? Where people can find you?
This is why I'm
what shows you doing soon?
The self-employment side. I never really plug myself because I don't really do anything. I am actually starting a podcast of my own. I'm still debating on what to call it. Hey, what do you think of this? Do you think my so-called podcast is funny? Because when people review comedians on TripAdvisor and they're fuming and they leave 1 star, they always say the so-called comedian. Yeah. So I thought so-called podcast would be a funny way. Yeah, all right, I'm going to go with that.
Have you had that review? Is that why you're bitter?
No, I don't think I have. I've not got to that stage where like I Google like TripAdvisor and then myself, and I'm not at that stage. I just stick to looking at my ex's profiles on Instagram. That's like as stalkery as I get about myself.
Okay, so your podcast is going to be called...
I think I'm probably going to call it my so-called podcast. But I was thinking about... Because everyone's got a podcast now. And they're all pretty much the same format. You just sat with your mate having a chat. And that's fine. But I feel like I could try and anticipate what's going to come next. And I think what's going to come next is... Do you know the way people just have clips of their podcast on social media? Like 10-second clips, and they end up getting way more interaction than the full-length shows because nobody's got an attention span and can't pay attention to people talking for more than like 10 minutes. So I just thought, well, why not make a show where it's just those clips? So I just interview a load of different people, do a load of different things, then edit the best bits from every single one and put it into one like 10-minute video, and that's like series 1. You know what I mean? Almost like it's a podcast and a show at the same time. Okay. Because I just think if you're trying to engage with people, it's so hard to do it long format, like long form. It's so hard to keep people's attention. Like some people now, when comedians used to do like hour-long specials, that was the norm. Now people do like half-hour ones, and it's just because people just get restless. I've seen it at gigs. That's why you have to have breaks in between the acts. In America, they don't do that. They just have like one after the other. But in Britain, we need those breaks, because if you try and have a gig where it's just one act and then another act and then another act, people are going to freak out. They need to go for a ciggy, they need to go and vape, they need to go and, do a line, whatever they need to do. Yeah, get a beer.
Get a beer.
So I'm trying to anticipate that. That's all I've got going on. Nothing else.
Okay. No, it sounds good. It's hard to, like you say, podcasts are all, a lot of them are very much the same, and and like you say, people tend to engage more with those short clips, especially if it's funny as well. Like, obviously you're a comedian, I presume you're going to have comedians on as well, so that's how you get people
it's in. It's less of a pain in the arse to subtitle as well, because you've got to subtitle all your videos now, which is difficult. This is the new thing that comedians moan about. It used to be, don't get booked by this place, or, this place have booked me and now they ignore me emails. But now it's like, I have to do a fucking clip. I have to sit here for 4 hours putting subtitles on this clip, and then I'll upload it and it'll get 50 views. It's the new thing people whinge about. Oh, I've got this. This is something else I've got. I've got this, right? It's like a bouncy ball, because I've started doing like meditating and stuff, and I figured that it's so much easier for me to concentrate if there's like a rhythm in the background. So now when I'm writing, I walk around and just bounce that ball and catch it. Yeah, mad that, isn't it?
That's interesting.
I just assumed that's what would happen. And I was right. Because I just thought, I started doing the meditation thing, and it was really interesting, but then I noticed that I can focus a lot easier if there is like a beat, if there's just like a, like a boom, boom. Like, I used to have an, called, the Newton's Cradle. I used to have a Newton.
Oh, yeah.
Cradle, but I lost it.
Yeah.
I found it so much easier to concentrate when there's just like a rhythmic noise in the background. So now when I'm writing and I'm trying to concentrate, I just bounce that ball instead. Because that's the thing about having ADHD, which I've definitely got. Is that you get distracted so easily, and it's so easy to be distracted, especially in your own home, because you've got so many distractions. You know, you've got your phone.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah. I work from home.
How hard is it to just do your work sometimes?
Well, for me, it's weird. I mean, I only went from home when COVID happened, and we all we made the decision we were just going to work from home, and then we've stuck with it. I find it really easy, but I know it's not easy for everyone. I have like a fairly long dinner, and I think that does it for me. I have like an hour and a half, so I'll get something to eat, probably play a bit of cards, maybe look at some content, like stuff like that. So I have a really fairly long dinner, and then I don't get bothered by stuff for the rest of the day. But different things work for different people, but it has to work for you if you're going to do it. Like, you're getting nothing.
Do you ever get
people?
Do you ever get people ringing up your business and being like, "Hey, can you help me like do me work?" Is it? Yeah,
that's sort of what we do. Well, sort of. I mean, businesses could recruit for themselves, technically. I mean, but it would take someone in that business a lot of time out of their week, out of their month, out of their whatever. I mean, recruitment it's fairly straightforward, but it's just very time consuming. And it's a lot of hours, and that's why people use us, because it's like if you're a manager or a CEO or a director or something, you're not going to spend all that time trying to headhunt and try and find someone when you could just pay someone else to do it, and they can spend. And plus, if that person doesn't find you someone, you don't have to pay anything. So I could be searching for months for someone, get someone, and be like, yes, I've got the perfect person, and they go, oh yeah, changed my mind. I'm like, literally cost me months, but I can't charge you for anything.
Are you successful then?
It's a really weird world.
Would you say?
But yeah, we we're doing really well. Yeah, we're four and a half years in, and we're doing really, really well. So yeah, we through COVID we won some pretty big contracts, and things sort of went off exponentially, really, which we weren't expecting because of COVID. We thought we were going to have to like really sit tight, but it just went the opposite way, and we've just kicked on from there. So yeah,
are you on TripAdvisor?
Really well.
Are you on anything like that? Any kind of review site?
I don't know. No. No, we should be. The only place you can review me is LinkedIn, and you can just message me and call me whatever you want to. A lot of people do.
You can't sort the car or something like that. You can't sort the MOT.
It's one of those things, man. It's one of those things. So your podcast, where are you going to put it? Are you going to put the clips out on
social media, YouTube, all that bollocks, all that usual stuff?
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll link you in all of the comments. So I'll touch base with you after, and when you get yours up and running,
mine will be a while. I have to film loads of different things, and I need some people I only need for like 10 seconds. So it's going to be trying to get comedians to turn up to stuff on time is dead hard as well. It's like herding cats, because they've all just stoners who get up in the afternoon. So yeah, it's going to be tough.
Okay, man. Well, when it happens,
cheers, mate.
We'll push it. But this will go out. I'll let you know when this goes out. But it'll go out on Spotify. I'll be putting clips out on Facebook. I'll tag you in all those.
You too.
Well, it's been really great to have you, man.
Very much.
Thanks for coming on.
It's weird to think you saw me at a gig and now we're talking via Zoom.
Yeah, man. Honestly, you killed that
cheers, mate.
I
Were you on the front row?
I was literally crying my eyes out, and then I was. No, so I was over on the right hand side. I was a bit further back. It was a small gig. There wasn't that many people there. They'd sold loads, but then I think women's football was on that night. But also it was hot. It was one of those that hot week we had where it was mental. So I think
bloody women's football
turned up, something like that.
It's not even the same as men's.
It's not the same. Man, you absolutely killed it. So yeah, thank you for coming on. It's been good, man. So I'll get this out on socials, and we'll.
Cheers. Thank you for listening.
See you soon, man.
Bye, mate.
See you later, bro.